Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Dark Side of the Word. We weed out the good, the bad, the creepy, so you don't have to. Join us as we discuss our latest book club reads and content recommendations. All topics are dissected and debated from a creative's perspective. New episodes are posted every second and last Thursday of the month. Watch Dark Side of the Word on YouTube or listen to the audio-only version on iHeart, Apple, and Spotify. Welcome back. We are back for another episode. Who didn't love our Allison Scott episode last time? I want to say last week, but that's not true.
I did love it.
I loved it too. Who likes that we are starting to interview authors now?
I do. I'm very excited about interviewing. I'm a little scared. I'm not going to lie. A little scared, a little nervous, but mostly excited about interviewing authors.
We have some pretty big announcements coming up, so stick with us for the rest of the year because you're not going to want to miss our future author interviews. And if you're already jonesing for another one, stay till the end because we are going to announce our next author interview, which just happens to be our next episode, right?
I think so. Our next episode. That seems accurate. Yes. Okay.
Well, it comes out in March.
Who's still adjusting to the new posting schedule? Me.
Two hands worth of that. I'm already feeling like I'm missing something. But
no,
yeah,
you're not. You're not.
So stay tuned.
I have it written down just in case, and you're not.
Good. Well, stay till to the end. We will announce that. This episode, if you haven't checked the title already, we are going to be talking about Grady Hendrix's Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. We are super excited to be talking about that. But first, before we get into the whole book and all of that jazzy stuff, we just, how you been, CJ? Or, I can go first. I forgot we talked about that beforehand.
That's okay. I can go. I have something in mind.
Okay, well then, how are you, CJ? How has the last 2 episode time frame been for you? Because we did not talk last episode.
I would just like to point out that I have a new head thing going on, or lack of head thing going on. There are no more cat ears because my ears were hurting, and this is a whole new podcasting style for me, and I'm kind of digging it. I'm kind of liking it. Change isn't always bad.
Well, not that anyone would notice for me, but I also changed my headphones.
I pointed that out last time. I pointed out your lovely hair last time.
Yeah, well, no, I changed my headphones. I used to have headphones back here, and I would hide them in my hair. But now, no one noticed because...
That's true, because we can never see your headphones to begin with, because they were hidden by your masses of luxurious curls, which straight hair me knows absolutely nothing about.
Also, this shirt was requested by CJ. I would like to point out she asked for a white shirt.
To show off her curls and her waves. I like it. It works well. Especially with the red lipstick. I like the whole Snow White thing going on right now.
Oh, thank you.
It's very nice.
So we changed the headphones, but that can't be the only thing we're talking about.
I've been sick again because that's what 2025 is for me, is just being sick on repeat. I've been going out for walks. I've been writing more on Substack. And actually, something I'm going to be talking about on Substack is why I'm not quitting Instagram. Because Instagram is full of people who are quitting Instagram, quitting social media, and they all have their reasons, and I completely get why they're doing it, because those have been my reasons to consider quitting too. But I'm going to be posting something on why I'm not quitting Instagram. And one of the things that I'm planning to mention, is how it connects us with authors. Back when I was a kid, talking to an author was like the equivalent of going to space. It just wasn't going to happen in your lifetime, And now, thanks to social media, we can get in touch with authors and have them come on for podcasts and have conversations with them. That was unheard of 20, 30 years ago. Instagram and social media has a place. It has good stuff, and I'm grateful for it because we get to connect with all these authors and bring them on the show, which is freaking awesome.
I mean, we also met because of social media.
We also that may also be part of the post that's going up, but yes.
I need to read this.
Yes.
No, I agree. Did they say where they're going, or they're just quitting social media in general?
A lot of people are going to Substack, which I feel technically is social media. It just doesn't have that algorithm type issue going on, or at least not at the same level as Instagram or Facebook. So people just seem to be quitting Instagram. Blue Sky Threads?
So yes, I believe the creator of the original Twitter is making Blue
Okay.
Sky.
Okay.
I don't have
Twitter
no
is
idea
another
about it.
one that people are leaving. They're just over all the algorithms and Facebook too. And I do have to agree with it. I scroll through Instagram, I scroll through Facebook, and I see more random reels by people I don't even know and accounts that I don't even follow that are suggested to me than people I actually follow. So I can definitely see why people are frustrated with that because I get frustrated too. But in my article, I will be posting some very important points about why to still like social media.
Yeah, I feel like I've had this new resurgence with social media and I've just been on it more, which is probably a bad thing. But I don't know. Maybe I found a little niche.
Yeah.
The algorithm is feeding me right now. I'm just gonna say the
Okay.
algorithm is so spot on into what I want to see.
Mm.
I'm obsessed.
I mean, it's not wrong. Like, I love cats. I love nature. I love witchy things. Well, lighter witchy things, not darker witchy things like Grady Hendrix's book, which we will get into later. But I love all that stuff, and Instagram keeps feeding it to me. I have found some lovely products through targeted ads, I have to say. Like I found this one cat fur cleaner, which is fantastic. It's like magic. And it was through a targeted ad on Instagram. Fabulous.
Maybe it's not all wrong. I don't know. Maybe this is something that has to be a conversation in a larger sense, but I'm trying to market businesses. I'm trying to spread the word out. I don't know how to do that as a small business. Like, how do I get my name out there except social media? That's the first thing that comes to my head. And I don't know how to get around it. If you are a small business who has broken the mold and just want to give a little crumb to me, share a little knowledge, comment please. I could really use a little boost.
On my lunch hour today, I went to the bird store that is new in my local area, and I was talking to the owners who are an adorable husband and wife who are owning the shop and running it. And he was talking, and he's probably, if I had to guess, very late 40s, maybe mid 50s. Same with his wife, and they're learning how to do Instagram and social media for the store, and their son's teaching them. They're like, I don't even know what a hashtag is. I'm so confused. I don't like it. And I'm like, I know, I feel you. It is rough learning it. It is rough if you're not used to it.
And it's so hard because I know people who just started Instagram accounts within the last year and they're already at thousands of followers, and I'm sitting here at the same number that I fucking had for 5 years, and I don't understand how to break the fucking mold.
I don't either.
I've done it all. I've done all the different things, and people are always like, just be you, they'll find you. They're not fucking finding me.
That's not true. They will not. I used to go through waves of where I would be getting a ton of likes. I'd be posting, I'd be interacting, I'd start getting a lot more likes, and it'd be going, when we did the Instagram challenges, I'd be getting a lot of likes, a lot of people seeing stuff, commenting, and then all of a sudden, I would get 2 likes the next day on the next post. Instagram would just somehow stop sharing me or would start blocking me. I don't know if I thought I was a bot or something. I never got any kind of notification, but I'm still me. I'm not doing anything differently. So it happened 3 or 4 times where I would gain traction, get really excited, and then get dropped like a hot potato and have nothing to say about it. And I'm just like, fuck it. I'm just not going to try and work the algorithms, which is why I don't post reels, because I hate videos. But podcast is nice. But I hate making videos and reels, so I just don't do it. So I don't get great traction on Instagram, which is okay. I can live with it.
I just do what I want. I'm turning it into a journal.
Yeah.
Someone else I follow on Instagram does it more of like a journal. She looks back, she sees how her life has progressed. So I've just kind of been like, all right, well, I'm going to talk about what I want. I'm going to talk about so many things that you don't know what my account's about, but you know what? Deal with it. Because we are complex creatures. Yes. And we don't just do one thing. I'm not just a gardener. I'm not just a podcaster. I'm not just a writer, clothing designer. You're not just CJ. You are all the things.
I am, what is it? I got a thing in my winter solstice retreat that was like a Hemingway quote, and it's, I am multitudes, I contain multitudes. That's it. I contain multitudes. I'm not just CJ. Boom.
Mm-hmm. And I really hate when these accounts are just like one thing. It's just one thing by that person. You're like, can I have a little bit more?
I don't mind it if it's like cozy winter scenes in Norway. Like, just give me all the cozy scenes in Norway. I can go somewhere else for cats. It's totally fine. Just give me cozy scenes in Norway.
But I want to see them living in the cozy scenes in Norway.
That's true.
I want to see how they go grocery shopping. I want to see what they wear. I want to see how they put up with the no sun. What's their sites?
I will follow all the accounts about cozy living in Norway.
What are their hobbies? Fun. How do they see friends? I want to know more.
Snowshoes. Sled dogs. That's what I would imagine anyway.
I know. My partner keeps wanting to drag me to the Arctic Circle. And I'm like, no.
That'd be fun.
Though I follow an account that just went to Antarctica, and I have to admit, that looked really cool.
I really want to do it, but there's that passage they have to go across, like Drake's passage.
Yes, I saw her whole experience on it. It was... She almost, died. She didn't eat or drink for 30 hours. Yeah. She was just, like...
I'm not going to go out of this world on Drake's fucking passage. No way. So I'm not, unfortunately, going to be able to go to Antarctica.
Well, maybe someday they'll build, like, a plane strip or something.
Bridge. Okay, how are you, friend?
So I'm going to try really hard not to clean my throat on this entire podcast, but I too have been sick. I got back from my emo cruise, and I immediately, on the drive home, completely collapsed internally within myself. I could just feel it just, like, taking hold. Yeah, so I will try to keep from clearing my throat, but I'm doing much better. It has slowed a lot of stuff. I wanted to jump right into this next 7 weeks that I have in my home to focus and create this life and slow productivity, but productivity in the same sense, and to really like nest in my home again. Hermiting is fully on board. My plans for next year have already been canceled, not to my love. I'm upset, but we are really getting into nesting now because clearly I have no fucking place to go. I am now a hermit.
That'll change once the winter is over. This is the nesting period right now.
Well, I just mean in general. I have no trips planned. I have nothing in this foreseeable future to look forward to.
That sounds very grim.
Yes.
And sad. You have your podcast to look forward to.
But I always have a trip planned, and now I'm hermiting because I just have nothing because it got taken away from me.
Maybe it's not being taken away from you. Maybe it's stepping aside to make room for some.
We don't want your positive talk right now.
This is the dark podcast. You don't need any fucking positivity here. All right. I get the hint. Fucking sucks.
It does. Life sucks. Anywho, I do have good news though. In the
are we gonna allow that on the dark podcast?
I don't know. If I didn't let you, I shouldn't let me.
No, go ahead.
In the haze of this sickness, like I had one day where I thought I was human, and I was able to finish edits on a chapter, the first chapter, a chapter in Praises. I am so happy. Nice. It felt, pulling the sticky note off the window was a moment, and it felt like
sense of satisfaction.
It was. I see the hole right now because I'm looking at it. I see the hole where that post-it note was. And I want to rip off another one. I'm motivated. I'm very motivated now. I just need to have the time because I was supposed to write today and I had to do something else instead. We won't talk about that. CJ knows all about what I had to do this morning. But yes, so hopefully now that I'm better and we are home, I will say I'll take the next 5 weeks instead of 7 and really hone in on all of the things that I'm working on until I guess I do have a trip because, yeah.
Do you have something to look forward to, or is your life an endless abyss of oblivion?
I'm playing bodyguard, so I have a really short friend who doesn't like to go to concerts by herself, and she buys my ticket, I go play bodyguard.
That sounds like a fun time for you and her.
The band.
Okay, so then that's nice. That's something to look forward to. Glean what you can from it, my friend.
Exactly. Maybe Taylor Swift will just announce a tour, and then I can use the money for that trip that I had planned and put it into Taylor Swift tickets.
There you go.
Sounds
like a worthwhile venture.
So yeah, we're just creating over here. The name of the game is slow productivity. And I'm really looking at that. I feel like we got to look at the scope of the whole thing and not this constant updates that social media is forcing us to feed to the world. It's not about every day I got to show you progress, but every day internally we should be making progress. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Even if it's a drop. Let's at least put the drop in. But some days will be a waterfall and some days it'll just be a drop. But that's
It's like what drop, but now that you mentioned waterfall, now I get it.
Go chasing waterfalls. Okay, anyway. I don't want to get canceled.
Okay.
Have her podcast like, oh, you sang a song. You can't be on YouTube now.
Copyright infringement.
Now, I think we have waxed poetically long enough.
Yes.
And all of this updating life things, because I don't think I have anything else to update, except I changed my lip color. instead.
Yes.
Yes.
The book.
But before we get into the book, just a quick word. If you're new to the podcast, then welcome! We love having you here. We want to take a second to go over a few things about our episodes. 1. Dark Side of the Word is hosted by Kait and CJ, two writers and creatives who can't get enough books, shows, movies, or podcasts about all things dark and creepy. 2, we're generally a book club podcast, meaning that we will be discussing the book in the episode title. There will be detailed spoilers, so if you haven't read the book yet, you might want to click away and check out our other episodes. 3, we love exploring stories with haunted houses, dark academics gone rogue, serial killer thrillers, reimagined monsters and myths, and so much more. 4, this also means that we're going to be discussing mature and sometimes triggering content, whatever the themes are featured in the book. If you're underage and you don't think that your parents are going to like you reading the book, then they're probably not going to like you listening to this podcast. Otherwise, thank you again for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a book, and use the comment section to continue the conversation or share your thoughts. Alrighty, who is excited and ready? Because I have been excited what time is it right now? Roughly like 6 hours to talk about. So yes, if you're curious what I had to do this morning, I had to finish the damn book.
I'm glad you finished in time for us to talk about it. Are you smelling your book?
Oh, I just got a good whiff of it. Oh my gosh.
It does smell very booky. I haven't smelled it in a while.
I know, it smells like Barnes & Noble.
Mine smells like, I think I actually ordered this from Amazon. I know, because I needed it to get here quickly. I know. I've compromised my principles for the podcast.
Kids, don't do this at home. Don't sniff your books.
I would like to point out that my copy, I wonder if anybody else's copy has this. Here's like a good questionnaire to drop in. On page 110, my copy has, it's not from Amazon, it's from Target. I got it from Target. My copy has that smack in the middle of the page. And I was wondering if it's just a printing error or if it's some kind of you got
Grady
the book. Hendrix thing or something that he does with his books. But I think it's just a printing error.
Mine doesn't have it.
Yeah. So I think it's just a printing error. So
I had to send her a picture.
You have a copy that has this.
I had to send her a picture of my book so she could read the page.
Yeah, so I could figure. And it was like an important part of the book too. It's like when they get the magic book from the librarian. I was like, God damn it! I've been waiting the whole damn book for this so far, and I can't even read what the hell is going on. Okay.
All right. So I will read the synopsis from the book because
because you're not writing them anymore.
No, I don't have the bandwidth.
That's okay. That's okay. That was not said judgmentally. That was just said matter-of-factly.
All right. In a world. No. They call them wayward girls, loose girls who grew up too fast, and they're sent to the Wellwood house in St. Augustine, Florida, where unwed mothers are hidden by their families to have their babies in secret, to give them up for adoption, and most important of all, to forget any of it ever happened. 15-year-old Fern arrives at the home in the sweltering summer of 1970, pregnant, frightened, and alone. Under the watchful eye of the stern Miss Wellwood, she meets a dozen other girls in the same predicament. There's Rose, a hippie who insists she's going to find a way to keep her baby and escape to a commune, and Zinnia, a budding musician who plans to marry her baby's father, and Holly, a wisp of a girl, barely 14, mute and pregnant by no one knows who. Everything the girls eat, every moment of their waking day, and everything they're allowed to talk about is strictly controlled by the adults who claim they know what's best for them. Then Fern meets a librarian who gives her an occult book about witchcraft and powers in the hands of the girls for the first time in their lives. But power can destroy as easily as it creates, and it's never given freely. There's always a price to be paid, and it's usually paid in blood. I will say that one, I don't think I could have done better. So
that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Grady Hendrix, quality.
Yeah,
all
definitely.
The way. Also, before we get into ratings and all of that, I just want to say thanks a lot, Hendrix, for shitting on my college town. Thanks a lot. I really appreciated it, just throwing that in the afterwards and being like, well, one of the worst homes was in Gainesville, Florida.
I was reading this and I was like, I
see
wonder what Kait is thinking about all the Florida aspect. I was especially wondering about the black flies, if they're actually a thing down there. What?
I mean,
what?
No? I don't know
they
what
seem like to be a big concern down there. And I was
like to the point that they're eating them?
Well, that was a different situation because I feel like that was a swarm intended to move the girls back toward the river.
And I need to understand, what are black flies? Are we talking about like legit, just normal flies? Are we talking like the black gnats that cluster in these like
I did
clouds?
not look this up because I don't need a visual. I just imagine like large, angry, biting black flies that apparently run rampant in Florida.
Well, then that would be like a gnat, not a fly. And also, if we're also talking about biting flies, that would be a horsefly. And those suckers are like huge. Not able to get into nostrils. So
okay.
I kind of...
They're so big they won't fit?
Yeah. Horseflies are huge.
Oh my God. I'm not looking that up. This book already had too many things that made me want to puke.
Also, I was just curious about the whole river situation in the book as well, because there's only one big river that would be what they're describing, unless it's...
And how was nobody concerned about alligators in the river?
Yeah, right?
That was my first thing. I'm like, oh, we're wading into the Floridian River? What the fuck? In the dead of night? Forget witchcraft, you're gonna lose a toe.
Okay, so I think that they were actually talking about the St. John's River.
Okay,
it's pretty big.
Means nothing to me, but okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us.
It's big, is what I'm trying to say, because I was sitting here and I'm like, what could they be living on?
I was imagining it like a creek or something.
Well, they said they couldn't see the other side.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And the only place in like that St. Augustine area that I was thinking, okay, what could this be, would be the big intercoastal that separates like the beach land from us. But they were too much in the woods and the country, and so then that made me think like, okay, well then was there an inland river? And I guess there is, St. John.
Would that inland river have alligators?
Yes.
In it? How did this not come up? I feel like nobody from Florida copy edited this whole piece, because I feel like that should have been at least acknowledged as a concern about these girls waiting in there.
Don't you know the aliens dropped the alligators off in like the 90s? This is just
Melissa Witchcraft just kept them all out because the alligators are like, I'm not getting anywhere near that shit. These bitches are crazy.
And the one girl is from Alabama. She understands alligators. She should know.
She should.
Hello. Do you hear that?
I do hear that.
I got scratchy face on the doggy.
Wants to join in on the conversation. All right, so I am dying to know how many stars you gave this.
I have to go first.
Yes. This time you have to go first.
I gave it 3.5.
Okay. I gave it 4.
Okay. I gave it 4 on Goodreads because you have to. So it's like a rounded up 3.5. But I have a lot to talk about. I have many feelings to share.
Many feelings. Okay. Why don't you kick it off then? Because I'm curious about your many feelings.
I'm scared because I feel like some of it is a little on the, oh goodness, side of things. Don't hate me.
I had a lot of rage while I was reading this book. A lot of rage about like the patriarchy and like women and what's been done to women. Like I was angry, not at Grady Hendrix, because I think he handles it beautifully, but I was so angry at like the world and assholes and jerk men while reading this. Did you have those feelings at all?
Well, we just want to go right into that.
We don't have to. We can
starting from a lighter, positive topic about it all. We will get into that because it's a lot. I do want to say that I still think Grady Hendrix is one of the greatest literary people ever in the world of writing. I still love him. My 3.5 star rating, I really feel does not reflect him, or I thought that his handling of the female experience through all that and his ability, the research he did and all of the stuff and the women he talked to, the fact that he was able to talk to his own family about this, sadly, and share all of it. I cannot think of any other better way that this could have ever been portrayed or shown to anyone. And I kind of want to like bow him. Like,
yeah, I agree.
And then that made me think, and all the books that I have read by him, he's always had a female lead.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, he's not obviously he's not a woman, but he writes as if he knows exactly what our plight is and exactly how we feel. It never feels wrong to me when Grady Hendrix writes in the viewpoint of a woman. If anything, it feels more right than a lot of other people do. I feel like he just captures everything so succinctly, so emotionally, so powerfully in a way that I never would have thought. Like, I really thought that he did that really well in the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires.
Yes.
I always forget the order of that title. But that one was where I really started to notice him coming into that. And Final Girl Support Group was also really good. And this one just blew it out of the water for me, where he is just a freaking god, basically, about what the messages he tries to get across. I feel like that if anybody were to read this book, be like, oh, yes, this is the problem with the world, and we should listen to this because this is obviously not what should be going on. Like, it fixed the whole world, a Grady Hendrix novel.
100%. And Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires just blew me away. That was like my first toe touch into his realm and his writing and just everything that happened for the female in that. That one just blew my mind. Probably everything you're feeling in this book, I felt in that one.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to me because he is not a flowery, descriptive, overly emotional writer. If you compare it to other people, his writing is actually on the blander side. It is more cut and dry, stark, straight to the point. But I guess in a way he has such a showing and not telling way of painting this picture that you know exactly to the T how everyone is feeling. This is the first book in a long time that I literally binged 300 pages in a day. And my brain hurt because of reading, but I was not slogging through it.
No.
It's also not like on the How to Sell Haunted House where there was like a sloggy point.
Yeah, I kept waiting for the sloggy point, and thankfully it did not come for me at all.
But in the sense, like, if you switch the name and called this like Gloria Hendrix, or just put like a female first name on here or whatever stupid idea, this could sit on the women's fiction shelf. That is how good. Like, a women's studies book. This could almost be a fictional version of a women's studies book. The depth of his research and experience and piecing together and all of this. Which brings me to a conversation, if you're ready.
Okay, the conversation.
Did you want to say something first?
No, I think I'm ready for a conversation.
Okay. Was this horror?
I knew that was coming. Okay. I would agree. It's a different type of horror. I don't feel it is horror. I was wondering this too, because nothing about this scared me in the way that spookiness does. Like, the witchcraft angle was intense. And, his descriptions of all the spells, definitely like, oh my God, I don't want to be pulling my fingernails out. Like, I could never handle this kind of witchcraft. It is way too dark for me. I don't want to suffer. I don't want other people's to suffer. My fingernails are staying where they are. Thank you very much. So, like, those kind of descriptions were very intense for me. And
it's a style,
scary,
though.
I guess, but not like, oh my God, I'm going to sleep with the lights on tonight,
That's his style, though. He is a very visceral, gory writer. And in that sense, I will say the book bordered horror. Here's where I'm coming from. It's not a horror book. And he admits it, at the beginning, side tangent, I do want to say I really, really, really appreciated his little foreword in the book, an introduction of why a white man wrote this book. And
yes.
So I really appreciated that because it prepared the reader to understand, like, he's not trying to be a dick and assume he knows it all and where he came from. Introduction,
I didn't
forward.
read that.
Oh, okay. Well, then this will come as part of a surprise to you. Because he based this book on hearing 2 stories from his own family members that he found out went to these homes. That's what started him on this journey of writing this book, is that he found out, like, his aunt and someone else.
I did read that. Okay, I see. Yeah, I did read that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he admits it to himself that this book did not have witchcraft to begin with. It was not meant to be there. And this is where I get a little annoyed with the publishing industry, because I felt that he put the witchcraft in and he put his gore and he put that twist on it because that is what he writes in, when it didn't really fit. If you took all of that out, you had a thick enough book with enough plot and storyline, with enough information and character art. You had an entire story. If you literally just pulled and tweaked a little here and there, pulled all of that witchcraft stuff out, it felt forced in because that is what he writes. And that is why we were missing the fear, the true Grady Hendrix style. Like, to me, I think that's the other reason I didn't like this book so much, is it, except for the blood and gore, And he's very well known for to make us go blah, like, spider in the ear. I can't. That'll haunt me to the end of my days. It was not him. This was not him. But in the same way, it was him and amazing, and it was just different. And that's the thing, is that instead of being able to write something and put it in a different area and just write a book about what he wanted to write about, he had to morph it into something, and I just don't feel like it worked.
Interesting. Because I actually, one of the points I wanted to bring up is that I loved how it wasn't until about 100 or so pages in that the, I guess, inciting incident happened where the girls get the book. Before that, it's all, talking about Fern and how she gets there and then interacting with the girls and day-to-day life. And it's all very mundane. There's nothing scary. There's nothing, spooky going on. There's no sense of witchcraft that's going to happen. And it takes a long time to get into it. And I thought it's so great that he has achieved this level of popularity as an author where he doesn't have to pander to having like the action start immediately with that immediate gratification that agents and publishers are looking for right now, especially from debut novelists. If this were, and I said this too about the How to Sell a Haunted House, if this book were Grady Hendrix's first novel and he was trying to become a debut author, it would not work because it doesn't go to that same mold that everybody's looking for right now of immediate gratification. And I love that he's gotten to a space where he doesn't have to do that anymore. But I didn't think about it from the place that you're coming from, that it did feel a little bit like the witchcraft is inserted in there because he's a horror writer and he writes horror. So that's what you have to write. So that's interesting.
To counter your counter argument, the inciting incident to me, actually, rewind here. I was sucked into this book probably the first or second page. From the minute, like the setting, I wanted this to be a movie. It was playing out all in my head. It was the greatest thing. I love the time. I love that he picked 1970 as well because, he had a 20, 30 decade range that he could write from. I mean, granted, that's closer to what he's used to because he does a lot of 80s and stuff like that. But yeah, I was obsessed with it. And I would say that the actual inciting incident is the fact that she was dropped off at the home. And
sorry, go ahead.
And when the witchcraft showed up, I started to lose. That's when my interest in the whole story started waning, and I just wanted it to forget about that and come back to the girl's experience in the house.
I guess I meant the inciting incident for like the horror aspect to truly kick in, but I agree with you. Like I was hooked from the first page. I loved the whole. I could have also had just a book just at the home without the witchcraft inserted in there because I liked it. It worked for me. I didn't feel like it should have been outside the book, but I could have easily just read a book about the girls just doing their stuff and living life and all that. I loved how there was a kind of parallel toward the end where Fern is waiting for her baby to be born, and she's also simultaneously waiting for Miss Parquet. I don't know if that's how you say her name. That's how I was saying in my head.
Well, we're going to say it that way. We're going to say it Parquet.
Okay, Miss Parquet to come and take her away because she was saying that Miss Parquet is going to come and like wipe her mind and make her somebody completely different. And I feel that parallels so much how some women feel about having a baby, that having a baby will take away the identity that you have as anything else but a mother. And all you will do is focus on being there for this person and be there to tend to their needs, which is exactly what Miss Parquet wanted Fern to do if she went with her. So I love that parallel that he did there and how he joined the natural and the supernatural storylines together.
I mean, I knew we were going to get some allegories in here that just...
I like allegories.
I didn't fucking care about. Can I also complain for a second here? Because this just annoyed me. How many fucking times are we going to get back to the house of, like, at the point of no return, we're not going to have any hope, and then magically pull out that had another rabbit?
That does happen a lot. That happened
exhausting.
With the haunted house one, too.
It was just exhausting, and I was just at the point of, like, oh my god, can we be done? Can we be fucking done?
I wasn't as exasperated with this book as I was with How to Sell a Haunted House. For this one, I was fine for some reason.
When the cops left, are we going to say Hagar's house?
Hagar?
The cook? Hagar? The cook?
Hagar is how I was saying it.
So when they had picked up Fern at the end from Hagar's house and were driving her to the station, and then they got the call and were like, oh, we got to go back to the house in case we got to go down. I'm like, book across the room. Like, god damn it. No, we got to go back to the house. I didn't see that coming. Yes. Now, I'm just putting off wanting to talk about the thing. Okay, last thing before we'll jump into the scary conversation. Hopefully we can hold our readers onto this much. We broke our rule. We had a slight tiny conversation of two parts before this podcast. One being that CJ wanted to point out that Pacre reminded her of Dolores Umbridge.
I totally kept picturing Dolores Umbridge while I was reading this because of her like little outfits that she would wear with the matching things and
the little purse on her arm.
Little purse. I just totally pictured Dolores Umbridge completely.
The second thing she said, because clearly she finished before me, is that the birthing scenes were extremely gruesome and to be prepared. But I know the audience is as titillated and excited to know, CJ, which one was the worst for you?
Oh my God. They were all so bad.
But which one was the worst?
So none of them were as bad, honestly, as the fingernail scene, because my first thing that I cannot stand is ocular trauma. We all know that. The second thing is going for the fingernails. For some reason, that just, I cannot take, it just seems like the most horrible form of torture ever designed. So the fact that Rose did that with her fingernails, for me, that was like the type of scene that I had going there. And then the birth scene with Miss Wellwood was...
That one was too much.
It was too much, but it was also exquisite writing. I loved how it seemed like he was there. Like, I have never given birth. I don't want to give birth. I don't want to watch anybody give birth. Called the midwife is as close as I'm going to get. And I look away whenever they cut the cord because I find that absolutely repulsive to me. Reading these passages, it was just so visceral and so real. And he just did such a brilliant job that I hate and love him at the same time for making it so realistic and vivid for me. Thanks, Grady Hendrix.
Fingernails didn't bother me. The tongue bothered me more.
That was bad too. That was not.
And then I agree about the Miss Wellwood. That was the worst. But the cream of the crop was when they cut her from vag to anus.
I think I actually blocked that out because I forgot. Yes, that. I was actually squirming in the chair. And my husband's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I am so far from okay right now. And thank you for never getting me pregnant.
Is that doctors kind of do that on a regular basis. And it's really annoying. And
so I think that
they don't need to.
The true horror of this novel is all the true details of what's involved in giving birth. And the pain, the agony, the indignities, the brutalities, the surgery, the cutting, the gore. Like, it's all exactly what happens. And that's what makes it so horrific, that this is what happens.
Grady Hendrix shows up in his whole male true form, his one peaking moment of it all when the doctor's stitching her up and going, her husband will never know. Yeah. He'll be so happy I did this.
Yeah, you're going to be upset because you're not going to be able to fit a damn thing in there, but, your husband's going to be happy that it's tight for him. Awesome. Yeah. So there's that rage again coming through.
Well, perfect timing. Let's talk about some rage over here. Let's talk about the female part of this book and the female empowerment and all this stuff. And maybe because I'm sick. I don't know. Or everything's just fucking turned off to begin with. But I did not feel much in this book.
Really?
I don't know if it's because I already knew about this horror. So when the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires existed, the anger, like probably everything you're feeling right now, I felt for that book. Because even though I knew some of the things that husbands could do to their wives back then, the injustice of all that and the fear, maybe it's because I couldn't put myself in the empathetic shoes of that person, of like, I could, in Southern Book Club, I could put myself in the fear of her husband taking control. Not that I never would, but that was just too close to home. And whereas this one, it's just like, okay, we're not getting sent to homes anymore. And so maybe I couldn't find that deep reach. Or I really struggled with Fern as a character. There was no liking of her. She annoyed me. She did the one thing I hate in all books, which is she let the world happen to her. And I know that there's an allegory there about it all, about, women couldn't do anything. They just had to exist as the world went around them, and they had to do what the world told them to do. And I get all that, and there's injustice in that, and I'm angry, but I just don't.
See, I definitely got irate during Southern Book Club's Guide, blah, 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 blah. And for this one, it just hit me right off the bat how, it just filled me with rage about what happened to women. And I feel like I've always known about it. I'm a very aware person. You know, I know the shit that has gone down over the years and still goes down in many ways, even though it's gotten better. But as I get older, and I'm 8 years older than you, and I feel like as I get older, I get more and more irate about this shit, about that women have had to put up with it over the centuries. The double standards, their oppression of sexuality and sexual freedom, why men aren't questioned. And I love that Grady Hendrix at the end was saying, you know, why don't the men ever have to pay a price? Why? We're always told we have to pay the price, but why is it always the same people, aka the women, paying the price? Why aren't the men fucking paying the price? And I just get so angry about it, and it's been making me more and more angry over the past 2 years with the Substacks that I'm reading and the articles and getting into witchcraft and, you know, women power and all of that and recent political events. And I think that just reading this book at this time, it all just kind of bubbled over where every little thing that wasn't even a huge surprising thing, just the fact that her dad in the very beginning barely talks to Fern as he's dropping her off. He doesn't even want to stop to let her pee, for crying out loud. He just blames her for ruining their lives, and no blame is given to the guy who knocked up. Oh, by the way, I love the fact that the guy who knocked up Fern is named Guy. Like, he doesn't even get a full name, really. His name is Guy because he's just nondescript. He's the one who just put her into this in the story, you know, and that's it. So I thought that was a brilliant move. And it just, I don't know, it just made me so angry. And I was just so angry through so much of the book. However, there are a lot of parts, and this is my controversial viewpoint, is that I don't necessarily feel that all of the witchcraft the girls inflicted on people was warranted.
So I have 3 things to say to all that. I'm saying 3 because I need you to help me remember again 3 things.
Okay, 3. I'll hold 3 fingers up.
1, it's just a quick little side tangent anecdote about all of that, which
is... hurts. I'm going like this.
They go through the comments about how, like, women are just made to have babies, and women are one of the few creatures to actually have menopause, and we have that because we're supposed to stick around and share knowledge and not just pop out babies. But men can have babies their whole life. So who's really just here to have babies? Second, I want to take back my words about not feeling anything about this book and the feminism. I think what the truth of the matter is I have become desensitized, and I've had to shut that off in myself because, like, on a daily basis, like, I don't want to make this into a political thing, but I just want to say one thing, which is just on a daily basis, I feel my heart ripping to shreds. Yeah. And so to get through this book and to get through everything, I just stopped feeling and caring about it.
I can definitely see that. Reading it was an unfortunate time.
Yeah, and, you know, to be honest, I don't want to feel that pain. Yeah. And
we're scared it's going to go back to that. That's why. We're scared that this is going to be 1970 all over again.
And I guess I just kind of wanted us... It's the age thing. Fern's age was just... They were so young. Like, I wanted more power in that, which is then the third thing, which is why I also think I struggled with the book and why I didn't connect to the rage and all the feminine stuff and the power of it all is because the girls turned on themselves. Like, the very fact that when I picked up this book and I was like, they're going to do witchcraft and it's going to be this whole thing and they're in this house and they're going to take it back. Those witches were not there to, like, make them become strong feminine. They were the bad guys, and it was so flippin' annoying to me. I wanted it to be powerful. I wanted it to be feminist. I didn't want Parquet. I can't say her name.
Parquet, yeah.
To be this mothering Gandalf of the female form in this book, guiding these girls to being, like, yeah, they were going to start at the bad path, but then she writes them, and then they're able to, like, do good with it. And instead it just turned into, like, Holly just leaves anyway with these bad people, and there's nothing good about them, and I don't like that Hendrix painted us in that way, and that we couldn't be a feminist. Like, the one time the femininity powerful came up to fight the system, they were evil.
Yeah, that was a bit disappointing.
So I think that's also why I didn't care, because I had nothing to latch onto to feed the power behind the rage, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, we're going to fight this system, the justice, like, come on, like, this is horrible what they're doing. And I just kind of, like, became Fern and just went with it.
Yeah. Oh, you have to talk because I need a drink of water.
It was a lot, and I don't... So, Hendrix, you failed me there. You failed me a little on the female power.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like in terms of the girls practicing witchcraft, When they do that first spell where they put the spell on the doctor to make him throw up because
that was
Zinnia,
cool.
huh?
Yeah, Zinnia. That was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, Zinnia's throw him. He's like, "Oh, it's all in your head, little girl. Don't worry." And they make him feel exactly what she. Great, brilliant. I thought like this is really great. What Rose did to Miss Wellwood. I know it's like that whole like send it back ×3. She like fucking times 100. I don't think that was called for.
But where was
at
Wellwood
all.
the problem? She was also being pushed around and told what to do and existing in this world and controlled. It was
Yeah.
not, she was not the bad guy in a way. She was just
She
doing
was-
her circumstances.
Yeah, she wasn't the best, but she also wasn't the worst. Like the girls at the home, they weren't treated the best, but they weren't treated horribly. The situation that Holly came from was way worse than what she walked into with the home. And the fact that I do acknowledge that the fact that the people at the home didn't believe her about how she got pregnant is bad. Like that's unfortunate, and it happened back then, and it still happens today, and it's really shitty. But I feel like what Rose did to Wellwood, number one, is just way too cruel. Though I did love that Grady Hendrix actually went there with impregnating her with like demon evil spawn. Like he really went there, and I did not expect that, which was quite a surprise. But it was a bit too cruel. And also, Rose said she wanted Wellwood to feel the pain that Rose felt. So Rose was angry that she had to give up a baby that she didn't want to give up, that she loved, a human baby. So
Not
she made
eels.
this woman, yeah, not eels. She does not want the eels. She does not want the demon spawn. So it failed. It did not. It just made her suffer in general, not in the same way that she did, because she didn't have to give up what Rose did. So she still didn't teach Wellwood the lesson that she wanted to her. She was just evil to her, basically.
And it's frustrating too because I feel like there's this constant theme in the book about forgive the moms who had to give their babies away. Forgive the moms. They just had to do what they did because of the circumstances and the higher up powers, men, whatever, controlled their lives, telling them to do this and doing all that. How is Wellwood not the same? How can we not forgive her in the circumstance that she was put in this position and that she should be forgiven for being forced? Because like you said, even though, because Grady Hendrix in his author's note at the end makes a thing about this of how like, yeah, some of these homes were horrible and that they weren't great. But in a way too, they were also sometimes a refuge for people and a safety and one of the best places they could be because they were actually, what would you rather? You being in a room where you're locked practically up and you're not being taken care of and you can't see the sunlight and you're not being fed properly by your parents and you have to stay still? Would you rather be in a home with all these other girls fully being able to be pregnant?
Yeah. So they couldn't have salt, they couldn't have sugar, they weren't malnourished in any way, they were getting their meals a day, they were getting healthy things, they were getting exercise. It wasn't as horrible as I feel the girls acted like it was. And that part really annoyed me because I'm like, but again, they're 14, they're 15. You see the world through the eyes of complete injustice against you. So I kind of get that. But it did make it very hard to like them, even though they're too young to know any better, I guess, in terms of what they're inflicting upon people,
I think that's why, like, I've seen so many people read this book and, like, post about, like, how they were crying at the end on Instagram or just all this stuff and how this affected them so much and all this. And I was like, wow, we're going to have this profound moment with this book. But I never had the profound moment because there was nothing profound in the end about female empowerment and strength and all this stuff. I mean, even the last letter of her finally finding her kid, there wasn't anything in here for me to look at them and be like, yeah, you sorry, you did a good job.
What was that?
My phone. You did a good job. Like, we can stand behind you. I could not stand behind Fern. I could not. And that's like, it was so frustrating to me because I was just looking and digging and praying and dying. And even when the witches stood up to take Holly and Mags or whatever, the one lady stood up and said no, and finally we're not going to do this anymore, I felt nothing because they had never built themselves up to be anything helpful and power. There was no women empowerment there. There was no fixing the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rose was the best character, to be honest. She's the only one, except for hurting Wellwood, she was the only one that actually did anything and took it and became the female empowerment and said, fuck the system, and got her daughter back in a way and all of this stuff and took it somewhere. And I would have rather Rose had been the person we were following.
I thought it was really interesting that he chose to have Rose leave like right at the height of when they were starting to get into the witchcraft, and they just had her exit stage left and gone for the rest of the book. I thought she was going to come back like in person, And she didn't. And I was wondering if he was going to do that with all the girls, just have them leave and just kind of like how a murder mystery, everybody just starts dropping dead. And except they, instead of dropping dead, they would just start have babies and go away. And then Fern would be left all on her own. So I was surprised to see the rest of them stay there for pretty much the rest of the book. Something that I have a problem with is the whole concept of the home and giving a child away for adoption. For me, it's very hard to find a clear cut, and this, I don't know how to say this right, so it's probably going to come out weird, but should you take a child from its mother? Should you take a mother away from its child? No, that's not good. But when the mother is 14 or 15 years old, she can't take care of a baby financially. There's no way to do this. She's not old enough to get a job that will financially support the baby. So to me, it makes sense that the baby should go to an adoption agency or a foster couple or somebody who can actually take care of the child. So I don't always look at what Wellwood and people are doing as evil, like the girls did. Like, I get not wanting to be separated from your baby, but you're 14, you're 15. What are you going to do with this thing? Your baby deserves the best chance. It didn't ask to be here. So there's this whole big conflict I have about that whole issue. And that was such a big issue because Fern doesn't want to give away her kid. Rose doesn't want to give away her kid. Nobody wants to give away the kid. I'm like, fucking A, your parents don't want to keep this kid. I don't think they should. Parents should not have to deal with that shit, with their kids having babies and raising their grandkids like they're their own kids. Like, I get the parents not wanting to do that. So unless your parents are on board, there's no way you're keeping this kid. So that part pissed me off.
I think that's also why I'm going to take it a step further, so don't worry. Well, I'll be the one to cancel this. I also just got real, that was another layer to the annoyance too, is Holly is a different story. That is, even her wanting to keep the kid, like, she never asked for that. She didn't make a mistake.
Yeah.
God bless her soul.
Yeah. Awful situation, but unfortunately so true about that, what happens so often and we don't know about.
The daughters shouldn't be separated from their kids because they never should have been pregnant in the first place. This goes back to parents. One, it goes back to not women having power and strength. Two, women having knowledge about reproduction, biology, all this stuff. Yeah. Three, having a strong relationship with the parents where they're taught and discuss these things. Yeah. They learn to have the empowerment within themselves and self-worth so that they're not just, I'm sorry, but like in a way, I was just so mad at Fern because it was just like, you fucking like, bitch, like you let a guy, because it sounded like, and when I read the book, I could be very wrong, that she had barely known this kid, really. They had gone out like 2 or 3 times, and then she was just had no self-worth and was allowed to be manipulated by this guy. And I'm just sitting here like you let yourself get, and I know I sound like one of those horrible, you let yourself get manipulated, keep your legs closed, but also the guy should be educated not to manipulate. It goes back to all the stuff of just, I blame it on the parents, that the birth control started with the parents. It started with our schools. It started with the parents. It started with the education. And the only, like, Zinnia, I feel a little bit different. Like, I get why, because they actually did love each other. Yeah. And decided to be together, and they were still fucking together at the end. Yeah.
And Rose thought her and her guy loved her, loved each other, and she
I thought that was like a one-night stand. That was a one-night stand as well. Remember, she was supposed to, I thought she was supposed to hang out with, this was a dad's client's kid. Yeah. And she was supposed to hang out with them, and then she was like, well, maybe I like it, and I'm just going to fuck my dad off, make him mad, so I'm going to go.
Okay, never mind. I thought they were together for some reason for a while. I don't know why I thought that. But yeah, you're right.
That's why I took
Yeah, I found that whole situation so ironic, because so many people in the book are like ridiculing the girls for liking sex, and like that one, I didn't think I had to tell you twice to spread your legs. They're all just making it seem like the girls just want to have sex for fun. They just enjoy being wanton ladies and getting it and stuff. They just can't wait to do it. In reality, most of them don't even know what the hell is going on, and they don't enjoy it. Like Fern said, like it really wasn't what everybody was making a fuss about. And then she ends up pregnant. It's over before it even begins. She winds up pregnant. She didn't do it because she loves sex and she just is a sex fiend. She did it because she wanted to be loved. And if these women, like you said, if they were properly educated about sex and love and everything in between, then maybe they wouldn't have been persuaded to do something, because they'd be like, well, this is probably not going to be worth it, and I choose me.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to like be that person that like blames her, or like, oh, it's your fault, you wore too short of a skirt. It's not what I'm trying to say either.
It's society.
I couldn't stand behind the mistake that was made when it could be so preventable in You know, this is why I fight for sex education in schools, because parents aren't fucking doing it. And it's like, well, then your kid got pregnant, your fault. like, like we need to talk about shit, because we also do have urges, and come on. Like,
yeah. And that whole precious attitude toward it, you know, it just, and the father can't even look at her, you know, but the guy just gets, that double standard absolutely drives me insane. And like I said, the older I get, the more pissed off it makes me that we've had to put up with this for so long. And it's gotten better, but we're still putting up with it. And it just makes you want to go fuck everything in sight just to piss everybody off.
Well, see, I'm having the opposite problem from a very personal experience for myself. It's like, you know, drilled, especially like as a kid, as a teenager, drilled into your head, don't have sex because, you know, you're going to get teen pregnancy. You know, it's so easy to get pregnant. Like, don't have it. That's disgusting. Like, you're going to, like, I was brought up in a house that was very not as sex positive.
Same.
And then now I'm getting to this point where it's like, you know, I'm happily with a person, you know, we can start thinking about having kids. Here's this opening. I'm supposed to bond with this person. I'm supposed to like be open and wanting it. And I'm so bogged down by how bad I've been brainwashed to think that this is such a naughty, nasty, bad thing that I'm having the hardest time breaking off of that. And that also makes me really mad, because it's just like, fuck no. Why? Like, why'd you do this to me?
Yeah, it's really frustrating. And he definitely captured it. Grady Hendrix definitely captured it well. He captured all the frustration, the anger that I feel about all the situations the girls are in. However they got there, he captured it really well. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like this book so much, is that it's just so well portrayed. And even though it didn't hit the mark for horror per se, it hit the mark on social justice and what the hell is wrong with people these days.
If I could take the horror out of this for my friends that don't like horror, I would probably be recommending this book to like everyone. But I know there's people that could not read this book because they could not.
I feel like it's so weak in horror that
no, the gore,
the gore,
like, the gore. They could not like get through that, because I do think it's a great book for a lot of people to read, and I think it should be read by a lot of people. But you know,
I agree.
It's going to get banned, I bet.
It's an educational tool.
Maybe our complaints about the book are the very essence that shows that this was written by a man, though. Maybe because he was not able to access that female power that we needed at the end, that female togetherness, or just the idea of who he caricatured Fern to be. Like, maybe this is just like some of the pitfalls of the fact that it was written by a guy, even though he did such a good job. I wonder if we're just
missing something, because Grady Hendrix is such a brilliant writer, and I feel like he wouldn't make such an obvious misstep.
Maybe.
Honestly. So I feel like there's some kind of message there, the fact that they couldn't be powerful, that they could just be evil. I mean, they are girls. They're 15-year-old girls.
But now you're saying that girls are evil, which is like an idea that's been painted about us forever. No, I'm saying that it would be
very unlikely for a 15-year-old girl to be, you know, wiser than her years.
But the witches could have been. The witches could have been the saving grace. That's why I'm like referring to this. Like when they stood up and protected Holly, like it didn't feel like they were protecting her because of female power and like we're gonna take care of our own. It felt like they just like, I don't know. It didn't have that.
They said it, but I didn't feel it as much.
Yeah, and that's why I'm wondering.
I don't know.
But you know, like I said, there's maybe some allegory in here that I'm completely fucking blind to and just rattling off, and I'm sounding like a horrible person. I missed the whole red door over there that's screaming at me that this is what he meant by it all.
He's just so brilliant. I feel like there's got to be a reason he didn't make the coven the way that we would have wanted them to be, that he went with the true horror aspect of it, like that evil presence. And
but did he have to, because he had to fit into a genre? Did he do it for a reason?
That could be
instead of like thinking about what this could really mean for a women reader. Because like you said earlier, you know, these women are being painted as evil people. Even when we try to take our power back in the form of witchcraft or whatever, we turn into evil people. And that's something that the entire female population has been fighting for centuries, to not be considered evil, wanton, we can corrupt men, we shouldn't have power and control because, you know, we ate the apple.
Yeah. It could be that he did have to pander after all. Yeah. He has to put food on the table somehow. Writers got to eat.
Maybe someday we can have him on here and ask him.
Maybe one day. That would be awesome.
He'll never come back because we're gonna so.
Here's a list of questions in advance you want to ask me. He'd be like, cancel. I'm not coming.
Yeah.
Find somebody else.
I thought it was funny though because I think he does like musical theater or theater, and he's an actor too at like his local theater. He posted something on Instagram about some show thing. I thought that was really cute. I mean, he holds like a skull here, like you know they do in Hamlet or whatever it is, where they're like.
Well, it said in his bio that he is a screenwriter.
What? This needs to be a book.
I wonder if he writes under a different name. For screen, because I'd be curious to watch anything he has ever written to see what it's like.
I wanted this to be a movie so bad. I want this to be a movie. I want
like all his books to be movies because they're just brilliant. I still want the vampire one to be. I love how we're just glossing over How to Sell a Haunted House.
Well,
we mentioned it, but it's kind of like as an aside.
My head's like covering it.
I definitely like Witchcraft for Wayward Girls way better than How to Sell a Haunted House. I feel like this is
I agree.
More of a return to that more thoughtful version that he writes and mixes so well, but not enough horror for me.
What did I rate that?
What, Haunted House? You liked it. You liked it more than I did.
It was so fucking scary.
Yeah, because the puppet.
Oh, I rated this one higher.
Really?
I gave it 3 stars, and I gave this one like 3.5 rounded up.
Okay.
So, yeah. Southern Book Club Guides to Slaying Vampires is still my favorite, though.
Yeah. I still love Horror Store. My first one that I read by him, still my favorite one. It's so...
I have not read that one yet. Oh, I haven't read that one and Final Girls, so I need to get on
Final Girls is my favorite one. You're right, Final Girls. But Horror Store, you're never going to look at IKEA Store the same way again. It's so good. So good.
Now, do you want to re-rate it? Are you going to change your rating at all?
I'm going to stay with a 4 because I just love so much of what he did. And for me, the lack of horror, spooky horror, doesn't detract for me. Or what horror he did put in doesn't detract me. So I will stay with 4 stars. Thank you. How about you?
Yeah, I think in this 3.5 with the rounding to 4 on Goodreads. Like I do think that it was still really good and I still want to recommend it. And I still feel like it's going to sit with me for a while. But there's just a little annoyed with it. And he's still probably one of my favorite authors ever, and I'm guaranteed to read his books. You know, like I said, I still loved reading this book.
Yeah.
So much. Yeah. And I would just like to point out, CJ, I would like to say that this counts as we agreed on a book.
I do think we agree on a book. Yes.
3.5 and 4, that's the same.
Yeah, that's we agreed on the book. Yeah, definitely. All right, 2.
Wait, what was the second one?
The Scott Leeds one, The Schrader's Chord. We love that one.
So good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we have 2 in 2 years? That's good.
Yeah, we're on a 3rd year now, but yeah.
3rd year.
2 as in that whole bookshelf right there.
We're getting there.
Now, before we leave you today, it is time for the exciting announcement because guess what, friends? We have another author coming on. When It Rains, It Pours, and I would like to thank CJ for achieving this one for us and snatching her up. But we are going... God, I'm like scared. We're going to be interviewing Cynthia Paleo.
Yes. Good job.
I think Plato first so I can get the Paleo. So yes, we were able to snag advanced copies of her newest book, Vanishing Daughters, and we are going to be interviewing her for this book and talking about it and interviewing it. So it'll be a little less of a book club and more of just like interviewing and questions and all this stuff. So I'm so excited that we are cool enough to have this amazing author on. I'm so excited.
I know. I'm super excited. I follow her on Instagram, and I love her Instagram, so I'm going to try and not appear like a stalker, because I'm not a stalker. I'm just a fan, but I'm super excited to talk to her.
If Sarah Nicole Levin ever came on here. There you go. I worked her in another episode.
All right, we better stop or else we have no guests ever again after this.
But yeah, I'm really excited. We promised you that we would be mixing things up and getting a lot more exciting over here, even though we had fewer episodes. So promise achieved. And then our next interview is like in June. So I'm so excited. We have so many cool things coming up.
Yay, us.
But thank you so much, friends. That is a wrap on this episode. If you liked the episode, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe so that other listeners can find it as well. You can find us as a video on YouTube or audio only on Spotify, iHeart, and Apple. Thank you again for listening, and we hope that you have a wonderful reading journey.